Żurek, a typical Polish soup made using fermented rye flour, is often served in an edible bowl, a hollowed-out loaf of bread. Today I'm making such bread. The written recipe can be found on the blog. While the soup itself uses rye flour, the bread to hold it is typically made from white wheat flour. I'll also need water, salt, and yeast. It's a very basic dough. I like to start by dissolving the yeast in water. I also add salt. Flour goes in last. I roughly mix the ingredients in the bowl, flip the shaggy dough onto the counter and knead. The dough's hydration isn't too high, so it's not particularly sticky. After around 10 minutes of kneading, I perform a window pane test and I can see that the gluten mesh is formed correctly. I am able to stretch the dough to a translucent layer before it breaks. I put a few drops of oil in the bowl and spread it to prevent the dough from sticking. The dough goes in. I cover it in oil and let it ferment, covered until it at least doubles in volume. The fermentation is performed by the yeast Saccharomyces cerevisiae. In a series of chemical reactions, some of the starch from the flour ends up transformed into ethanol and carbon dioxide. The latter compound is what inflates the dough, allowing it to rise. The dough is nicely inflated. It's time to divide it and pre-shape it. I use a scale to divide the dough in half. I knock each half back and shape it into a tight ball. I've nearly forgotten to take a piece from each dough ball. I'll use these to form a handle on top of each loaf. Now, the pre-shaped dough will rest for a quarter of an hour. This will make the gluten network relax. 15 minutes later, I can final shape the loaves. I lay each ball smooth side down, flatten it, fold the edges in, and again form a tight ball. With a moist finger, I make dimples on top of the balls. I try not to break the gluten mesh. I form beaks on the smaller dough pieces and insert them into the dimples. Traditionally, I'd transfer the loaves onto a baking sheet and let them rise. However, I like to use baking tins. The loaves will rise until they're ready to be baked. Here they are, ready to go into the preheated oven. And here they are after baking. The handles on top got a little flatter than I'd like, but otherwise they look great. Since I'm using the bread as an edible bowl, it's difficult to taste it on its own. I've already hollowed out one to fill it with żurek. The crumb is soft and spongy. It smells really nice, though that's to be expected of a yeasted bread freshly taken out of the oven. It tastes nice. The top is the best part though. I toasted it under the broiler before serving the soup. It's beautifully crunchy and tasty. Not an exquisite bread by any stretch, but its purpose is to be a bowl. And for that, it works great.